Hello, folks. I know I haven't made a video on my classic boxing and MMA channel in a while, but I've been busy. I don't know if some of you may know, the few of you that even come here, that I was on dialysis, but I got a kidney transplant, and now I'm not. What I want to talk to you about today is the bullshit that's going on in boxing. I mean, I thought this shit was over in the 1950s when La Costa Nostra got booted out of boxing around the late 50s to the mid 60s. They got booted out. Before that, they pretty much controlled the whole thing because they owned the arenas and and venues that the fighters had to fight at. Okay, but today there's another, perhaps much more insidious mafia. Just like the old Costa Nostra, this one is a Mexican boxing mafia run by the WBC Jose Suleiman and Company. I wasn't gonna say nothing about that because I don't like accusing organization or people of anything unless I really have proof. And these people, they have no shame. The proof is there. They don't even try to hide the fact that they're looking out for their own people. And the fact that this guy, Oscar Valdez, that I was a fan of when he knocked out the guy to get the championship, another tall, hard hitting guy. But I thought it was peculiar that Valdez, who was more like a puncher, kind of like a traditional Mexican warrior who comes to fight, all of a sudden turned into a guy who can move around the ring so well. And a guy that he was always fast, but also he developed almost super speed. He could always punch, but all of a sudden he became a much, much more dangerous puncher. I looked at that kind of side-eyed a little bit, but I said to myself, maybe the guy went with Eddie Reynoso, maybe did something, inspired him in some kind of way to make him work harder at his trade, and this is the fruits of that labor. But then when he tested positive for PEDs, it's a PED that helps you cut weight and not lose muscle. I forgot the name of it. It's a PED that gives you more stamina, which Oscar Valdez previously had somewhat of a problem with that. And then he's going round for round, throwing punches like nobody's business and knocking out some much bigger and stronger and tougher opponents. Perchette, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, the way he knocked him out, that was very unusual and odd to me. The way he beat up Perchette. I never seen nobody do him like that. And I said, well, damn, this guy, he really elevated himself. Now, I'm not saying Valdez has always been, hasn't always had skill. He's a very skilled fighter. He would have gave those guys trouble regardless PEDs or not. And I can't say that he wouldn't have done the same thing without the PEDs. But the fact that he was found with it in his system, and the fact that the WBC let him into the ring and let the other boy from Brazil into the ring, knowing that this guy just tested positive not too long prior to his fight, that's a goddamn crime. That could have really been a felony. What if he killed Perchette? Perchette, The way he knocked him out, I haven't seen people get on when people fall on their face. That's normally a hard ass 10 count knockout. And the last fight I seen like that was the only guy. The only man I've ever seen get up for some shit like that was George Foreman when he fought Ron Lau. Ron Lau knocked him on his face, and the referee could have stopped it right there. It looked like he was dead, but he got back up, almost like Tyson Fury when he fought Deontay Wilder, or maybe even on that level. But the way he hit Pichette, and Pichette was down and out, and it took a while for them to even revive him. And then the only thing, I know they tell you to stay down when you get knocked out, you're coming up out of it. But the only thing that could move was his mouth. He was mumbling, whatever he was mumbling to him. I guess they tell you say something and whisper in their ear, what have you. But, and then the other guy, I forgot this guy's name. The first guy he took the title from, it was almost the same type of shit. I was flabbergasted. Because I don't think Pichette has ever been even really on the verge of being knocked out. No, I don't know. I haven't followed his career like that. But in a sense, he was meant to be food for Pichette. Even though he had showed himself, even though he won a championship. But that whole camp over there, and Eddie Reynoso's camp, seemed to be all testing positive for some kind of banned substance or previously banned substance until the WBC unbanned it for their fighters, for their Mexican fighters that are tied into them financially in some kind of way. And then you see the referee, I'm gonna get to the referee in a minute. But did you see the announcers? I mean, the way they was talking, they was giving Valdez rounds that he didn't get. I didn't see him. I didn't see all that. Now, yeah, I did see the other fighters start to tire and played around and things like that when he started tiring. But Valdez didn't and couldn't really take advantage of it. He got a few good shots in, but he couldn't fully take advantage of it. And whenever this guy decided he was going to box and fight, Valdez had no answer for it. I don't see Valdez winning no more than 3 or 4 rounds, maybe 4. And it's like, who was it? Ward and Bradley. I'm like, what the? And the other guy, I forgot his name. What the fuck? Are we watching the same fight? I'm like, I know these guys are fighters, champions, great champions. Maybe they see something I don't see. They're ringside. Maybe they see something I don't see. Now I watched that fight twice again, and I got twice more sure of my opinion and sure that the Brazilian boy won that fight and sure that Ward and Bradley was bullshitting. Bullshit. It's like, and the ref, and don't let me start on the goddamn referee. That was one of the most set up, fixed fights I have ever seen in my life. I mean, just out and out in your face, like, fuck you. And Valdez had the crowd, so the crowd was not booing or showing their disapproval because they didn't give a damn as long as they got one. Now, look, I understand about Mexican nationalism. I got black nationalism. My people here, and really abroad, but really my people here. I look at the other black people, like America looks at England, France, and all these European places. They are fast allies, but America looks out for America first, or at least for the interests of the wealthy who control America. and some pretense to the civilians, even though not much for blacks. They pretty much show us how the fuck they feel. But you know what I'm saying. I don't want to digress. This is some of the most blatant fucking. And the referee, I noticed at first, was always pushing the Brazil boy when him and Valdez would clinch or whatever. He pushed the Brazilian boy out the way and seemed to be reprimanding him all the time. I started looking at that shit. I say, something fishy in Denmark. This shit, something ain't right. Then this Brazilian boy accidentally hit Valdez in the back of the head or whatever, a rabbit punch or whatever. Well, and whether it was accidental or not, I've never seen a person get a point taken away for one rabbit punch unless it was really malicious, like Valdez's was, and he didn't take no points away from him. And then the Brazilian boxer pulled his coattail to it, reminded him of it, and he shrugged it off. This was, you know what? That's the kind of shit that make you wish we had some kind of higher authority, a boxing commission or something. So you know what, them motherfuckers will probably get bribed. There's so much money involved in boxing. Because Bob Arum was he was a lawyer for the DOJ, and he was sent into boxing. He was sent to look into boxing and all this crooked shit that was going on back then. And he resigned from the DOJ and became a promoter. That's how much lucrative the money was in boxing at that time. It's like the way these drug cartels in South America and Latin America pretty almost bought up like Colombia, almost bought up the whole damn country of Colombia. Carlos, I think, was it Carlos Escobar? I had never seen no shit like that. The Mafia here ain't never pulled off no shit like that. But Carlos Escobar, he damn near took that whole country over. If he would have just been a little bit more subtle, he'd still be alive today. And maybe the president. And still running shit, the cocaine. This shit, it has to stop, folks. It's getting to the point, it has gotten to the point of ridiculousness. And boxing is falling. People are not watching boxing as much anymore. Now, there's more than one factor to that. People are more educated now. It's easier. Not, you know what? Not really easier to get more educated. It's that these colleges was always a business, but they really are a business now. So you got women going to college now. You got all kind of men going to college, and they have to create courses for them, and the job market has to create a gap for them to come fill in after they take their useless, meaningless courses. So I guess people, like a lot of young men that's impoverished now, don't only see boxing. I mean, like a smaller young man, like a Sugar Ray Leonard, who admits he was too small for football, and the bigger guys intimidated him. But maybe he could use his hands and box, against another guy his size. So a lot of guys are not seeing that as a way out. And boxing is not as interesting to them as it used to be. Plus MMA. Those guys fight. I mean, it's almost like a life and death struggle because everything goes in MMA. Just about everything. MMA is a legalized street fight with laws and structure. But anyway, the MMA fighters, even though I don't like the fact that Dana White and his group controls all the fighters, I mean, totally everything. Fighters almost have no say unless they get really big up there. And then when they fall a little bit, then Dana White comes in again. I don't even think they get royalties on these on these video games that have their likeness in it in them. But anyway, the young fans, young people, are becoming more attracted to MMA. MMA as a combat sport is like a magnet, drawing young people who would have been boxing fans a decade ago, 2 decades ago, are now MMA fans. And I was a boxer. I must admit it myself. In the mid early 90s, about the mid 90s, when I was 30, I got into grappling, shoot fighting, which is catch wrestling. And again, I'm gonna remind you, the guy that taught me this is now the proprietor of Strong Arm, and he's Stipe Miosic's trainer. But anyway, on one of them, the main one. Well, you was the main one. But anyway, I got pretty good at grappling myself because I knew I could fight in the street. But if somebody knew that, they could be a little 160-pound guy and choke me out right there on the goddamn concrete. Or choke me out and beat the shit out of me while I lay on the concrete. Because I was a bouncer and I couldn't have that happen. So he used to be at a Tracy's Karate because this guy named Bart Bell had brought it to Tracy's Karate because he was like a big muckety muck there. A big giant, whatever degree fucking karate expert. And they had my teacher himself had many belts in karate, but they had mainly took these gyms and was turning them into grappling schools. Now people say Bart Bell couldn't fight, couldn't grapple. Maybe he did have some problems with it when he first started. I mean, when he fought for real. Now over there in Japan it was kind of, but over here it was for real. And it was things he did that later on I saw that was mistakes and the same things I did early on. In any form of martial arts or fighting, I call all fighting martial arts. In any form of combat fighting, that a person, combat fighting, combat sport, that a person or a group of people are training in, they normally all have problems pretty much with the same set of things when they first start. Now, I know they all have individual problems. They have to be taught how to iron these out individually according to their individual selves. But in a large faction of that, the guys pretty much had the same problems. Especially guys who were never wrestlers, but always been strikers. But people say, you know what? I saw Tony Cicchini, and he was talking about some guy taught him this. But I said, damn, Tony Cicchini, like you doing the shit I was taught. Marcus was taught. So I think somebody came from I was talking about Marcus Marinelli. I think somebody saw that. Cicchini is Italian, so is Marcus Marinelli. And pretty much Italians who live like being in the suburbs of Cleveland pretty much know each other. Seriously. So I think this Cicchini guy maybe got in touch with somebody who learned something from Marcus and learned these hoes and shit. Because it's mostly catch wrestling, but whatever Bart Bell was back then, he got a lot better. And I wasn't that good at it at first until I saw him. See, when YouTube really came, when I started watching YouTube, and I think 2007, 2008, I saw Tony Cicchini doing these holds, and then I could visualize them in my head. And when that happened, you know how they say a guy, like, I saw a movie once, it was kind of like a somewhat of a Southern Hoodoo movie. And it was this kid that was trying to learn how to play the horn, and it sounded horrible. And everybody around would say, tell that boy to quit that racket. And it was this one black guy, older guy, played by, what's my man's name? Danny Glover. And he was telling people, I think he told the kid this too. He said, keep on playing, kid, regardless of what they say. Because you'll sound bad. And one day, all of a sudden, it all come together. And that's what happened. Danny Glover fell. He was an old man, fell on marbles. The kid had some marbles on the floor, and he fell down dead. Once he hit the floor, he was dead. That happens to a lot of old people. But anyway, when that happened, all of a sudden you hear the boy, and his horn was sounding good. But that's what happened to me with this grappling shit. Only thing I had was a lot of strength. And I started first, I could keep you from submitting me. You could not submit me. And if I got on, I didn't really have much of a saddle, as we call it in catch wrestling. But I had a side saddle. And on that side saddle, I could get you in almost any in top wrist lock. I never did bottom wrist lock, double wrist lock. It's always top wrist lock. And then, from there, it went on. Once I started seeing this Tony Cicchini, who everybody says ain't shit. I don't know his level of effectiveness and skill, but from what I saw, I could visualize it in my brain, and I got it together. But anyway, I digressed on purpose, not to make a point, but I am flabbergasted at the degree of corruption that this guy, what's his name? Is it Jose? Is he the first suitor? I know he's the first suitor. I mean, is he a junior? I don't know if his name is Jose, but I know his father back in the day in the 70s and 80s. I used to watch boxing. Was the head of WBC. He wasn't that fucking bad. He wasn't that fucking bad. He couldn't have been, because boxing had a wider and bigger audience. Now, it always was a sport. It always was kind of a scumbag fucking sport. I love it, though. I can give you some of my experiences I had with how people in high levels in the sport that really just turned me the fuck off from it. Because I was getting ready to be launched at 17, but I said, fuck it. I don't like these people, and I'll be wound up killing one of them, because I knew me. Motherfucker, you fucking my money, I'm going to be perched up somewhere. And when you come out, when Don would have came out of his camp in Orwell, I would have blew his knees out with a fucking 30-06. But anyway, I know I'll probably be in prison now, because I would have been intended on doing his knees, but knowing me, I would have brought it up about 12 inches further up to the top, if you know what I mean. But it really hurts my heart and my soul to see what is being done to my sport that I've always loved. Now, don't get me wrong, it was horrible back in the day. People was fed to the wolves always from its beginning. Matchmakers would, if they had somebody who was bringing along, they get somebody who maybe had a little bit of name and was over the hill, over their prime, or somebody who had been propped up to be food for somebody else. And this guy thinking he got a shot, thinking he's all this and all that. Well, maybe he was, but he's not any no longer. Or maybe he never was, and no, he never was, but just is collecting a check. And the powers that be paid people to fall down for this guy, so that when it's time, he could be food for a real guy, and they can catapult this real guy. I get it. And when the mob, when the Costa Nostra controlled it, people were actually taking dives. I mean, straight up dives. But in some kind of way, I feel that this go round, that it's even more corrupt than it was then. Because at least the Costa Nostra, I know I'm saying that fucked up, but at least they try to make it look and appear that it was somewhat legitimate or legitimate all the way. Just like professional wrestling was back in my day in the 70s and before that the 60s and even the 80s, the early 80s. You know it was fake. Okay. But the the companies themselves and uh, the uh, the infrastructure and the wrestlers themselves would never utter that word fake. They always try to make you believe or just even have the veneer of telling you being seriously intent on making you believe this shit was legit, even though it was bullshit. But even a guy, Dr. D. Death David Schultz, he was one of my favorite fighters, wrestlers. And I said, damn, that dude's big. Then a few years later, I was that big as he, 6'5", 275. But anyway, even he risked his career, whatever, when he slapped the reporter. I forgot which one. And he showed me, he said, you think wrestling is fake? Well, here, this is a open hand slap. Wham! And he slapped him in the ear, side of his head. And the guy suffered, well, at least he said this. Could have been some bullshit to get some money and to show that, this guy is, did me this way, and wrestling is a crooked sport and all this. Maybe that's why he did this. He claimed, and his doctors claim, that he had permanent hearing loss. Now look, I've been in a whole bunch of street fights. I've inspired the ring hundreds and hundreds of times. The way Tyson Fury hit Deontay Wilder in the ear with that, people say he had a loaded glove. It was an unfucking loaded glove, where it had all the padding on the sides. And he hit him with his knuckles. Fury being a fighting man in England, the Irish fighting man, the gypsy fighting man, who I used to fighting bare-fisted, he's probably done all kind of techniques to make his knuckles resistant to the bones of a man's chin and head. And he hit Deontay Wilder in the ear right here, or one of the ears, and it did disorient Deontay Wilder, but it didn't give him permanent hearing loss. Now I understand Deontay Wilder is an athlete and a much bigger, stronger man than whoever that fucking reporter was. But still, I have been hit in the head with bricks. All kind of shit. I done had 4 or 5 people trying to beat the shit out of me with their fists. They had me on the ground. I got up. And I fought like hell to survive. And believe it or not, I fought them motherfuckers off. 5. Didn't win. Didn't even have a draw. They got a little bit of the best of me, but I fought them off. They couldn't do to me what they thought they was going to do. And I fought 3 people numerous times to standstills. And they looked worse than I did when the fight was over. But anyway, I said it to say, a wrestler went as far as to jeopardize his career. And I think somebody might have put him up to it because his career was over after that. But I bet you somebody paid him some money. But they went that far to stop people from besmirching wrestling's name as fake. So even they tried to give a little show for the fans to, make them think, or a veneer making them think that this is real. In other words, the phoniest show in the business. the phoniest so-called sports exhibition ever, where they actually call the fans between themselves a mark because the fans bought into this bullshit. That's a con man's lexicon for the target of their con. The fans were a mark because professional wrestlers, promoters or whatever, professional wrestling promoters are at their core con men. And the wrestlers are taught to be con men and women. The baby face is the guy everybody loves who wants to win. Like Ric Flair was a baby face. I'm not Ric Flair. I'm sorry. No, he was a. They call him a fucking heel. Dusty Rhodes was the face. They even had terms for this shit. Terms that we didn't learn till the 2000s when all these wrestlers was coming out and giving interviews. Now the terms are pretty much in the American everyday speech, so to speak. But let's juxtapose it with boxing. That is always a real contact sport. But by the way, wrestlers turn out even more brain dead than boxers. They turn out with dementia. A lot of them have dementia, especially a lot of the guys who were jumping from the goddamn ropes. But even the guys who didn't do that, like Mr. Perfect, Paul Orndorff, I seen him. He didn't know where the fuck he was. And he looked nothing like the old Paul Orndorff. His muscles, he was gone. Totally, even gone more than mine from being on dialysis for 5 years. His shit was gone. I mean, nothing. No indication that he was ever the kind of man that he was. He looked like an old, frail, dried up old man. And not just his facial, but his body. The whole body was gone. So I guess that's what a lot of the wrestlers mean by it. It ain't fake. Like they's taking those bumps for real. Them some hard ass bumps. And you don't think guys get concussions every day from that shit, jumping off ropes? Even the guy, they supposed to be hitting each other. It's fake. They stump their foot on the mat. But a lot of times they be getting hit for fucking real. And they make it look real. They take it. A lot of times they cut themselves used to with the razor blade, but sometimes they get cut because the motherfucker knocked the shit out with his fist. And back in those days, guys took catch wrestling, new catch wrestling, like I do now, and wrestlers, before they taught them the fake shit, would teach them the real shit, how to do leg lock, arm bars, neck cranks, shit like that, how to break your leg with a heel hook, how to snap the knee with a heel hook, how to break the leg with a knee bar. I know a lot of you guys who grapple, who got all these belts and jiu-jitsu say, oh, well, they'll never get me a knee bar. But if you don't know what the fuck is going on, you'll get it and put in a knee bar. And a real good grappler can put you in a knee bar until you get like in the high black belt status. But the reason you don't see it in MMA a lot is because these are mostly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, and that's not one of the things that they really do a lot. But you got some guys who have done it and can do it. But back in the time of the old Japanese, of those things I spoke of, Bart Bell was involved in something. Now, some of the shit was real. A lot of that shit was real. Like my man, I can't think his name, Bass Rutten. That shit was real. Bass Rutten, the Shamrocks. Some people say the Scamrock, but the Shamrocks, they were involved in real fights where they had to slap each other so that they would have to display a lot of the grappling, and they were putting guys in knee bars all the time, legitimately. And they brought that to the Octagon and UFC too, the first UFC. But the reason you don't see it that much now is because there aren't any real catch wrestlers operating in the UFC anymore. Josh Barnett was the last one, and I don't think that was one of his moves. Big guys like me and Josh, we normally concentrate on the neck and upper body, mostly the neck. Concentrate on keeping you on the mat and manipulating your neck, or a choke, or manipulating your neck where if you don't tap, if you don't tap, something gonna get popped. But anyway, boxing, they don't even have the class, the WBC. I'm talking about. Yeah, you. They don't even have a class to try to make it look like it's fair. Because they're appealing to an audience who is large enough now to where they don't care if it's fair or not. They just want their guy to win. That's Mexican nationalism. I'm a black nationalist. I want my black people to win. But I'm not willing to just cheat like that. If you're going to win, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. Not no bullshit. You can take over PEDS, and I'm changing the rules, Canelo, so that you can have whatever the fuck that was, higher samples than VADA or WADA, whatever the fuck, than VADA will allow you to. And I'm changing the rules. I think I saw a little bit similar with John Jones in the UFC with Dana White and I think VADA was in on this one, or maybe it was Real Science. I don't know, but they said when you have micro doses of these steroids, whatever the fuck John Jones is using, that you can have it from now to ad infinitum for some fucking reason. So all the time John Jones tested, he would come up somewhat positive for whatever the fuck this substance was. You gonna tell me it's some shit that can stay? I don't know. I'm not a chemist, but it sounds shady to me. And I think that's what WBC picked up on. And VADA went along with the shit in the UFC. So somebody must have got paid a whole lot of fucking money if it wasn't real science. I don't know. I'm speculating on that one. But it's very obvious in the boxing today, the WBC. You let a man go in the ring, juice to the fucking gills. I don't know. I don't think he used probably a week before the fight, whatever. But this motherfucker had not too long ago tested positive with the A sample and the B sample that came back. The one that my man, what's his name? The guy in England and shit. That his B sample totally disappeared, but this B sample actually came back for Valdez, and it still was positive for this banned substance. People were saying, well, it wasn't actually a steroid or what, but it was still a PED that enhances your abilities. You take some shit that keeps your lungs pumping for stamina when you in the like 10th, 11th round, the other guys getting tired, and you got all this stamina because you taking that shit, and you hit this guy with a fist the wrong way, that could be the guy's life. People die in boxing, I wouldn't say every day, but 4 or 5 of them died last year, and a girl, I never seen a female boxer die. Because they normally not hitting like that, punching like that. Some of them do. But a girl just died. I think it was on that on that card. I don't know if it was on the. I don't know if it was on that card that Tyrone Woodley fought one of the Paul brothers on. I'm not sure. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. And if anybody's watching, which I know it ain't, then you can comment and let me know. Okay. But a female just died from, and I don't know if the other female was on steroids or not. But if she was or wasn't, you can be killed in boxing without steroids. You get like Dooku Kim, Boom Boom Mancini. I seen that fight. I think the main reason Kim died was because his head bounced off those ropes, and that joshes the brain around. I think if his head would have bounced off those ropes, he wouldn't have died. What about this boy? Got killed by this Conway. A boy from Cleveland killed him. I saw that. That was horrible. I haven't heard from Conwell since. I think he sat down. I don't know if he had steroids or not, but I don't think so. Because I think they were tested for those fights. A man was killed with a fist in boxing from a trained fighter. He was a trained fighter. So this game is hard and brutal enough to have to go in against some asshole who juiced to the gills. Now I don't know if the Brazilian guy say, hey, that's cool because I'm fucking juiced too. But even still, you got two fucking juice heads. One of them can kill the other one. And for the WBC to allow this shit to take place, them motherfuckers need to be hauled before a court of law. Because that can go down as attempted murder to me. Or even I don't know if they have a thing like this, but attempted accidental homicide. Or what the fuck? Attempted accidental homicide. Attempted homicide. That's what I would put that shit down as. Or attempted felonious assault. Because two boxers climbing the ring, they agree they're going to fight. So that negates any felonious assault. But when one of them is fucking using PDEs, that's helping him be able to cut weight easier than the other guy, where his body is not depleted from cutting weight like the other guys is because he's on these fucking drugs that's making it easier for him to cut weight and keep muscle. Because a lot of times you cut weight, you lose muscle. And especially when you cut weight as quick as some of these boxers have to for their fights. And what he was taking was helping him cut weight pretty efficiently and easier as compared to a person that's not using it. And his body suffers less from this cutting weight. His muscles stay more intact from this cutting weight than the other guy. It gives him more stamina than the other guy, where he can fight longer, fresher. All that can equal a boxer being injured very seriously, if not killed. And then, to make matters worse, you got a crooked referee who's hell-bent on supporting one guy. You got crooked judges who hell-bent on helping one guy win. So much so that one of those judges has come out publicly, I think on one of these social media outlets, Twitter or whatever. I don't like to advertise Twitter because I think that they're a threat to the First Amendment. But anyway, this guy came out publicly and apologized for his judging in that Valdez fight. And he apologized. When people called him out, he realized the fuck he had been doing because he was a crony of the WBC for years. And this guy, I don't know if he made good on his promise, but he came out, apologized to the fans. I don't know if he apologized to the guy from Brazil, and then said that he was going to step down and retire because of this shit. Because he got so much flack from it. I don't know if he really was sorry, but he got so much flack that maybe the WBC sacrificed him. Let him be a scapegoat. They probably paid him some money under the table, and he went on and did it. So you see, and there's other things that the WBC has done where this female who's a judge and this one guy, this black guy was fighting a Mexican guy, and the black guy clearly won. I forgot their names. I'm always forgetting names. And this one female judge had it so lopsided. And she has come out and had some racist remarks to make about black people. She called Michelle Obama a monkey. But I tell you what, Michelle Obama look a whole lot better than she does. If Michelle Obama looks like a monkey, she's like a wet fucking rat. Although Michelle Obama is not my type. But anyway. She's a lot of other guys' types that I know. And obviously she's the president's type. Who ain't no slouch himself, I'm quite sure, amongst women. But anyway, this woman is a wife of one of the upper echelon in the WBC. The WBC has not come out, has not, I don't know. I speak, what is it, AVVE or some shit, or AAVE, African American Vernacular English, AAVE. And I'm proud of it. That's my language. I'm not trying to speak no other type of English, even though I can. But not like you would think. Because there's some things like I talk and I don't put the S's on shit. Like we do, like you say, he coming. I found out is he's coming. I didn't even know that shit till I read the article. But I'm proud of what I am. I'm proud of how I speak. Because this is a legitimate form of English. But anyway, in my AAV, nobody came out and apologized. The WBC did not come out and apologize for this woman's behavior, for her racist remarks. And she didn't. She was not made to apologize. This new Mexican boxing mafia is worse than the white mafia used to be. It's worse than when white people was biased against black boxers in the old days. It's worse. For some reason, a lot of Mexicans are eager to take up the mantle of white folks because they think they white. I guess they mostly are European. 80%, 70%. But they so much want to be accepted and brought into the fray by white people that I seen Eddie Reynoso sad because I think it was Teddy Roach. He thought didn't like Mexicans. He was sad about that shit, but he done called blacks niggas. So I guess they feel that by appeasing white folks, that'll put them a notch, a rung up, especially above us. But they don't know something. I ain't gonna go into it. You all know, and they should know. That shit ain't gonna never happen. White people ain't gonna never accept them in. Never. Now, what may happen is they might replace white people numerically and take over. But they ain't gonna never be accepted by them, by their idol. Their idols. In the riot in Chicago, when black people was protesting in Chicago against what happened to George Floyd, Mexicans were helping the police. Some Mexican gangs were helping the police against the black protesters. But it was also Mexicans, a few that was on the black side and protesting because they realized they up against the same shit. But I'm not here to. If a people don't want to be with me, I'm not gonna be like, oh, we should be partners against this and that, the system. You don't want to be with me, fuck you. I don't give a damn. I never agreed with integration. I don't know why our foreparents wanted to integrate with these motherfuckers. They don't seem that great to me. They're okay. But what the fuck I care if I walk in the bathroom and go and sit in the same goddamn toilet that some stinking motherfucking hunky just got up off the toilet wiping his ass. His ass stink like any motherfucking body else's. So I never gave a fuck about that. When I was young, I used to read that shit. I said, what's wrong with these niggas? You know, black man act like a white woman pussy is gold. I don't understand that shit. All the so-called minorities act like her shit is gold. It's all women. It's all beautiful women in all the fucking races. I stick with my own. I never had a woman out my race. There's too many fine-ass women in my race. Now, they might have to get a fucking attitude adjustment by you telling them, bitch, your shit don't stink. I ain't gonna kiss your ass. I wear the pants. I'm the man. But once you get that shit down, it's cool. But I said all that to say this. These Mexicans go all out their way to kiss white people's ass. Kiss a motherfucker like Freddie Roach's brain dead, almost Alzheimer's ass. Freddie fucking the loser boxing Roach. How did my man Mayweather call Papa Mayweather Freddie? What he said? Freddie the joke, coach joke Roach or some shit like that, you know? But I think Roach is a compatible name for this motherfucker. And the Mexicans are, and also, and they're, oh, he's racist. Get the man, don't you have some pride? I thought you was Mexican warriors. You're going to come at us because you know that we on the bottom of the totem pole and all bitches want to push what they consider the weakest one down to make themselves look big in the eyes of the control. That's some weak bitch shit. I know some Mexicans that'll call you a bitch to your face if you act like that. Call you a bitch. But you want a Mexican that want to be like white people. You want to live like white people. You want, it's like a lot of black people used to be. It still are. Still are. But at least you are a Mexican nationalist. I don't think you're going to stab your Mexicans in the back for white people. It's a lot, but black people, the ones who are like I just described, will do that to a point. The black women will go all the fucking way with it. But even Colin Powell got so far and he couldn't suck dick no more. He couldn't brown or whatever the fuck they call it. He couldn't do it no more with Bush. But he did when he lied and co-signed for Bush. There was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That was bullshit. No CIA come up with that shit. Well, I guess they thought it was because they gave them fucking weapons of mass destruction when they was fighting Iran in the 80s. So I guess they felt that they had some of that shit left over. But that shit was old shit they using in Korea. That shit wasn't no problem for the fucking U.S. government. They put on a fucking gas mask. You probably buy the Army Navy and walk through that shit. But anyway, I'm just saying, everybody talking about, oh, I'm a predator. If you look at predators, real predators, or your man is zoologically a predator. Seriously. You can tell by the anatomy of our eyes and shit like that. But anyway, predators are like bullies. They always bounce and pounce on the weak. You see a rhino or a water buffalo, really, the lions will jump on a water buffalo, but if another one charged their ass, them motherfuckers will run a fucking country mile. They run all through the jungle getting away. A whole pack of lions from one motherfucking or two water buffaloes. And these police and all these people here the same, and Eddie Reynoso and guys like that, you're making your people look bad, bro. The WBC, I'm not going to be so much on Eddie Reynoso. The WBC and Jose Sulaiman, you're making your people look bad. You have to cheat like that to get ahead in the sport of boxing. Cesar Chavez Sr. never done no shit like that. He got in there and whooped your ass. He whooped big black guys, muscles rippling, whooped their ass, hit them in the fucking liver, and they went down. I'm used to Salvador Sanchez. To me, it's the greatest featherweight of all time. Maybe there's somebody better I didn't see from back in the day, and they forgotten about. It was one, I can't think of his name. Goddamn. He was great in the 1900s. He died from tuberculosis. Now, look, I give white people one credit for one thing. They don't like us. They like to get rid of us, the males. And there's biological reasons behind it. I'm not going to go into that. But even back in the early 1900s, when white people saw fucking talent, they gave it up. When this guy died, he was on a train bringing him back. It was white people lined up for miles. This black guy who was a featherweight. Lined up for miles giving this guy props. In the fucking early 1900s. They didn't do all that for Jack Johnson because the heavyweight title was more coveted. And that was really all the lightweights and shit. That was just appetizer. No, what do they call that shit? I don't know, appetizer maybe. But the heavyweights was the cream de la cream. They was the main course meal. So white man couldn't afford, and he hated to see a black man with that. But even Jack Johnson, even some writers, a lot of writers talked about him like fuck most of them, but it was still a lot of white writers that wrote the fucking truth that he was the best of that time, of his time. And that he would give even Jim Jeffries a shellacking. They wrote it. Because I used to cut school in the 8th grade to go to the library because I lived in ninth grade high school. We moved to Ashtabula when I was like 14, 15 out of Cleveland, and there was a library right next to the school. I wasn't interested. I was more of a history buff. I didn't want to know the shit the school was talking about. I would go get that 8mm film and watch Jack Dempsey beat the shit out of Willard, and watch Jack Johnson in those films where he beating the shit out of Jeffries, and who was the guy he got the title from? I forgot his name. He was beating everybody's ass. And the people at the library would tell the school, they used to call the school, called, is Brian Jones over there? Yeah, he's here. Well, leave him alone as long as he's learning, reading. But I seen, even Jack Johnson, the white people lynched him and killed and rioted against black people and just normal black people. But even Jack Johnson, when he won, they didn't hold back the fucking belt. They gave it to him. But way back when I think it was Jim Creel fought Molyneux, that was different. But that was like 100 years before, and it was in England at the time. And the English, it was more than a black thing. And the English, they just wanted to they didn't want American to beat an Englishman. But yeah, a black thing played heavy in it. But it was two things coming together for a perfect storm. But in America, they hated the black man. Ever since he got out of slavery, they hate him for what the fucking, we didn't do nothing to them, but they hate us. And people always telling we got to heal. Motherfucker, we ain't do shit to you. What the fuck you got to heal about? And the Mexicans need to know, like that Zorro thing, the Zorro shit is about a real Mexican guy. The white people came in, took all they shit. I mean, white civilians coming in after the Mexican-American War, took all their shit, all their land, cattle, and was murdering and doing raping everything to the Mexicans. And this one dude stood up and he got some dudes together and they was going around killing these white motherfuckers, these white ranchers that took over the land. And you want to kiss they ass? I guess it's because the immigrants coming in, and since blacks are always on a lower level, we competing and shit for the crumbs. So there's a natural animosity. But for you motherfuckers to be that blatant, I don't respect you. I don't respect none of your champions. I don't respect, and Canelo, look, Canelo I thought was a bad motherfucker. This his head movement was second to none, but maybe this guy, I think it was in Argentina, he ain't knocked nobody out, but he could stand right there. You couldn't hit him. Mike Tyson had that at first. He had, now maybe his shit was a little bit better because he could come down and shit, but he was way shorter than them big old motherfuckers in the heavyweight division. Canelo ain't short, that much shorter than these guys, and he taller than, they about eye to eye. And what he doing with guys his own height, that shit is fucking amazing. That head movement. You know? When I found that boy tested positive, that hurt. It really did. It hurt. You know, and I don't know. Because I thought he, you know, I thought he was cold a month. I didn't think that he could stand up to guys in the 80s. You know, he wasn't great like them. But at welterweight, especially at welterweight and what junior middle, I thought he was great. I thought he was great. Borderline great. Let's say great for this era, but he was good. He would have been good. He would have been a contender in the 80s at any time in history. Contenders who are contenders now, or champions, the champions would have been contenders at any time in history. and I thought he might be after Mayweather and after Pacquiao. But I think Canelo would have beat Pacquiao when Pacquiao was knocking out. Well, Canelo wasn't around then, but I don't think he was barely around. Yeah, he was around, but when Canelo was knocking out Golden Boy and all that shit. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this shit up. I said what I had to say, and I'm gonna add: if WBC gonna do all this Mexican shit and just be blatant with it, I'm gonna catapult the Mexicans and the whites above everybody, especially the Mexicans above everybody else. Then black folks should create their own shit. Called the fucking non-biased heavyweight, the non-biased championship, or the non-corrupt, or the on the level fucking whatever, you know, or the PBC. But them motherfuckers, they playing a role. They think they part of the team and they ain't part of shit. Only reason you great, PBC, is because us, the black fans. But anyway, some black organizations should create our own championships. We fight amongst ourselves, but it's still the best fighting the fucking best. And then if you want to challenge, then we'll come together. But it ain't gonna be on your fucking rules and laws. I'll call an LDBC to do that shit because they probably the only ones that can pull it off. I think they can. especially if they get with some contingencies in the PBC. Now, I want you to listen to me. I know y'all some smart, slick guys, but listen to this shit. I'm quite sure it's some contingencies in the PBC that's not quite happy for whatever reason. Maybe some people who's like Gary Russell Jr.'s people, and maybe some people who had people like that the PBC buried who want to come out and do their own thing. And the LDBC and them get together, they can do it, man. They can shake boxing up and make these motherfuckers get out, other motherfuckers get out the game or play it right. Even then, we still gonna keep our shit. Like the people had a bus boycott and down south with the fuck Mississippi. Soon as the white folks let them ride to the front, they gave up their own shit they created and wanted to ride with the white folks again. Fuck that. You niggas create your own shit. I'm trying to create my own shit. I've been ill for a long time, physically. That shit is corrected. I'm creating my own shit now. So that's all I got to say, folks. What the fuck time is it? 7. You see, I got my gangster hat on because I'm talking about a bunch of goddamn gangsters, WBC and whatever. So I'm putting my gangster hat on. I love this hat anyway, though. So it's what, 7:18? I don't know how long I've been fucking ranting, but let me see how long I've been ranting. I don't know right now. But anyway, I'm gonna try to come on with a live stream the same time every day on this classic boxing MMA. And next time I come on, I'm gonna be talking about MMA, which is something that I've come to love since I grappled and learned grappling. This before, like, we had really a lot of people had access to the UFC or had a weigh in because the Gracies had it, was picking who fucking came, and we had to grapple and stuff amongst each other. So we were just basically training, but the training was tough. So okay, I'll see you guys. Probably nobody. I don't think nobody on this motherfucker. Zero. So all right, let me see. I'll see you guys whenever. Peace.